Alright guys, so in my last video, I went over the top 5 best solo drop spots in chapter 4, and in today's video, I want to go over the top 5 best duo drop spots for you guys in this brand new chapter. Now once again guys, we have a brand new map and there's going to be a bunch of different new POIs that I want to explain and give my top 5 picks for what I think are the 5 best duo drops. Now be sure to use code Sonata YT in the Fortnite item shop if you guys do want to support me. Let's hop right into this video. Now, I want to begin by going over a drop spot known as Solitary Shrine. Now, Solitary Shrine is going to be located to the northern part of the map in the ice biome. And in terms of loot, Solitary Shrine is only going to be having around 9 chests, 1 hollow chest, coolers, produce boxes, slurp kegs, plenty of materials, however, and there's going to be around 1 to 2 teams contesting you based off of my personal experience. Now, this is a very similar layout and building type to a place like Brutal Bastion, and it's a fairly central POI, so you don't really need to worry about rotation. However, obviously the downside will be that Solitary Shrine is a smaller POI with a lot less loot, so if you guys are landing here, you're going to need to focus on how to ration the loot correctly. But the good part is that there's a lot of floor spawns, there's a lot of various ammo boxes around the area. It's not going to be too little loot, but it's definitely going to be a smaller amount and the smallest on this list. So Solitary Shrine is a really good drop spot for those of you who are teams that want to try to play passive. If you guys are less intensive W key players, you're definitely going to want to land somewhere around here. And another big benefit is that you're going to have really good access to other major POIs around the area. For example, Brutal Bastion is pretty close by. You're decently close to Anvil Square, and you can move around using the ice that's connected in the snow biome. But Solitary Shrine's not a bad spot. If you guys are trying to land somewhere a little bit less contested, consider landing here. Let's move on to the next spot. Now the next spot is one of my personal favorites just because I really like the layout of it. This is going to be the Meadow Mansion and Rowdy Acres split. Now this is going to be found near the southern part of the map, pretty close to Frenzy Fields. And Meadow Mansion is essentially just going to be this massive big mansion that's located pretty much right outside to the left of Frenzy Fields. And Rowdy Acres is going to be an area that's a little bit more south. That's going to be pretty much just 3 houses in a small little closed area. Now, Meadow Mansion and Rowdy Acres is going to be having 16 chests, hollow chests, coolers, produce boxes, slurp kegs, plenty of materials, and then 2 teams contesting you. That is most likely the rough amount of teams that may be contesting you. It may be less, it may be more. But a really big benefit of landing at this drop spot is that you're going to be at a very wide split, so you're going to be able to cover a large amount of area and have a large amount of map control, and then also get a large amount of loot considering that there's a lot more chests and there's an ability to get a bunch of floor loot. However, once again, that is a downside because if you guys are at a wide split and you are contested, it's going to be a bit tough to fight off spawn if you land separately. That's why I would recommend that if you are contested, you try to land together at one of the same things. For example, if you're contested, you guys should both land at the mansion or you should both land at Rowdy Acres. It's pretty self-explanatory about how to actually fight this POI off spawn. As you play it more, you're going to learn more how to actually handle it. But this POI is a little bit better for those of you who are a little bit more aggressive players that want to try to compete in those higher level lobbies and get higher level loot, and then rotate over to a major POI such as Frenzy Fields. Obviously, rotation will be a bit tough considering that this is on the edge of the map. However, you can get by just by using various different mobility items, using slap juices. It shouldn't be too difficult for you if you ration it correctly. So that's what I think of Meadow Mansion and Rowdy Acres. But let's move on to the next drop spot. Now drop spot number 3 is going to be known as Exile Isle and Humble Hamlet. Now this once again can be found near the southern portion of the map. This time it's going to be a little bit more east. Now Exile Isle is going to be pretty much an island that's pretty much off the coast of the island, and then Humble Hamlet is going to be the first little town on that shore of the island. This is a really good POI for those of you that want to land a split that's a lot closer together that also has a large amount of loot condensed into a small area. This place is going to be having 19 chests, 2 king chests, 2 hollow chests, coolers, produce boxes, slurp kegs, and slap kegs. It's also going to have a vending machine, plenty of materials, and there's going to be around 2 teams contesting you. However, once again, that is just a rough benchmark. You guys aren't going to be exactly certain how many teams are contesting you until you actually start landing there and experience it for yourself. Now, I really like this drop spot simply because I think that closer splits are a lot better simply because you guys can land different areas, have your own areas to loot, but you can still really easily access each other. If somebody is fighting you, you get third-partied or you get rushed. If you are contested, I would recommend that you guys try to land the Humble Hamlet area considering that that place does have a little bit more loot and a little bit more attributes for shield. And Exile Isle is also a really secluded area off the side of the island, so if somebody does land there, you guys can easily eliminate them. Overall, this POI is very solid for those of you that are higher level players that want to have really good loot but also land somewhere that you won't be immediately eliminated off spawn. It's likely that you guys will have an off spawn fight here, However, it's pretty unlikely that you guys will be eliminated here. As long as you guys keep landing here, learn how to play it right, learn how to farm, learn your rotation, you should be pretty good. And a final notice about this POI is that it is a little bit tough sometimes to actually get metal from this place, considering that there's primarily brick and wood in the area. So if you guys really do need metal, I would recommend you rotate over to a major POI nearby, such as Faulty Splits, try to farm metal there, or just find areas near the local gas station and try to get metal in any possible way that you can by rotating to an area that actually has it. And for drop spot number 4, I want to go over Breakwater Bay. Now, Breakwater Bay is the first named POI that I'm going to be going over on this list. This is going to be in the northwestern part of the map. It's going to be having over 30 chests, along with produce boxes, slurp kegs, slap kegs, vending machines, a capture point, which is something I'm going to go over soon. Also, plenty of materials, and then 3 or more teams contesting you. And the reason I say 3 or more is because it is very likely that you will be contested. However, considering that this POI is slightly larger and spread out across a larger area, it's highly unlikely that every single team will be landing within you in a close proximity. So Breakwater Bay is very solid if you guys are trying to land a very good named POI with a lot of loot. However, somewhere that's going to be less contested than more of the major POIs that are central and closer to the center of the map. That is the only downside of this POI, is that it's going to be a little bit closer to the edges of the map. Not everybody likes that, considering that it makes rotation a little harder, but I think that Breakwater Bay is very solid considering how much mats you can get here, how much loot you can get here in such a small area. It's also a really good layout for those of you guys that want to try to loot very quickly. You guys can get slap kegs and then run around the area, get all of the king chests, get all of the coolers. It's pretty quick and pretty easy. Also, this POI is large enough to the point where you can split it with other teams. So if you guys land and another team doesn't want to fight you, you don't have to fight them. You can land here, you can loot your own area, and then you can leave without fighting the other team and not even tangling with them at all. Also, in terms of materials, you're going to be having a good amount of brick and wood. Metal will be a bit tough, however, you can get by farming various different things around the actual POI. There's going to be small objects, like for example slurp kegs. There's going to be small little railings and stuff you can farm. However, if you do need metal, I'd recommend you rotate over to the areas like in the snow biome. It's going to be a bit easier to farm there. But overall, Breakwater Bay is a very solid POI for those of you who are more experienced players that want to land a named location with a lot of loot. It'll really carry you well throughout the rest of the season if you decide to land here. And this brings me to the final POI, which is going to be known as Slappy Shores. Now, this is the biggest POI within the eastern side of the map, in my opinion. Slappy Shores is going to be having 40 plus chests. It's going to have 3 king chests, coolers, produce boxes, slurp trucks, slurp kegs, slap kegs, and then also a vending and mending machine, along with plenty of materials and 5 or more teams contesting you within the area. Once again, that's going to be in your area. This drop spot is quite large and it is separated into 2 different parts. So most likely if you land here on your side of the map, at most there's going to be around 5 teams contesting you. However, Slappy Shores is really solid in my opinion. This is basically the chapter 4 version of Slurpy Swamp from chapter 2. It's essentially going to be the same thing, except instead of slurp juice, there's going to be slap juice, which, if you guys don't know, gives you 15 shield, but also gives you infinite sprinting ability, so you guys can sprint forever for a short period of time. Slappy Shores is really solid, not only because it has that slap juice mechanic, you're going to be able to loot a lot faster because of that, but it's also really good because of how many different areas you can actually land in this POI. With the lower portion of the POI, there's going to be around 2 buildings along with the big slap juice main building, and while the big slap juice main building doesn't have as much loot, it's still really valuable for you guys to loot the other houses nearby. And then on the other side, which is the upper portion of Slappy Shores, there's going to be a gas station and like 7 buildings that are really good for you guys to loot quickly that have a lot of chests and floor spawns. This is by far the most amount of loot condensed into a small area within any place on this map. It's a really good spot for those of you guys that are really highly competitive off-spawn players. If you guys are semi-pros or professional players, I'd highly recommend you consider looking at this drop spot. You just definitely need to know what you're doing off-spawn. It's not a place where the bad players will be landing. And it's also really easy to rotate out of here, considering that you're not only going to have a lot of metal, a lot of materials, and overall general very good loot, you're also going to be able to use the river system in order to maybe use a boat, maybe use different mechanics like hammering around the area. It's pretty easy to get out of this POI. I wouldn't be too worried about where it's located. But overall, Slappy Shores is a very good POI for those of you better players who want to land somewhere highly contested, along with a lot of good loot. But yeah, guys, that is the video on the 5 best duo drop spots in chapter 4. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel down below. I really enjoyed making these 2 drop spot videos for you guys because I really like discovering this new map. I think it's one of the best we've had in a while. Other than the chapter 1 map, this is by far my favorite. But yeah, guys, that's about it for this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.